I have a quick question regarding when people croak. They always that's one way to catch up to what you become. But I've heard you describe many times that to some people it's like the next logical step, or as easy as walking in from one room to another, from when you transition to pure non-physical consciousness. And we also have a lot of people who have near-death experience who talk about seeing a light or a tunnel or a stairway to heaven or whatever you may call it. I want to get, if you can describe that, is it really a light or a tunnel or anything like that, or is it just, boom, we're back into non-pure physical experience?
Well, the sensation that you have as an individual moving into this, in other words, this is like the ultimate moving into the vortex, isn't it? So just look at it this way. If you've been hanging around in the vortex while you've been in your physical body, then moving into the vortex will just feel like, what are we having for lunch now? In other words, you will not have the sensation of release of resistance. It's the feeling of relief that is so evident. If somebody's been in despair or in fear, and that's the perspective from which they make their transition, then their feeling of release and relief is just beyond description. So really the variable is how resistant were you before you made your transition, which makes a lot of people wonder, well, if I wasn't resistant at all, why would I make my transition at all? Don't I make my transition? Isn't that punishment for my resistance? That's what a lot of people think. And we say a lot of times people make their transition into non-physical because they have explored what's going on here to their satisfaction, and they are looking from a new vantage point from which to explore. Esther had a really wonderful experience quite early on in her Abraham experience, because they had been invited by Burl Ives, who was a very well-known singer many years ago, to visit in his home. And they got to know him. They were there a few times and got to play with him and converse with him and get to know him and his wife Dorothy. And then they didn't see him for a while, and they got word from his wife that he was getting ready to make his transition, and they were aware of it. Even when they knew him, he was ailing and never leaving the house. And so Jerry was watching television one night, waiting for the weather, so he had the television muted, just watching to see when the weather began. And the news was on, and he saw a picture of Burl Ives go across the screen, and he said to Esther, I wonder what's up with Burl, because they knew he was not making another movie. And Jerry said, I wonder if Burl is getting ready to make his transition, or maybe he already did. And the news report was just reporting that he was in critical condition and so forth. And Esther sat on the sofa thinking about him and focused upon her appreciation of him, and had the unique, really rare experience of getting to feel him make his transition. And she felt the release and relief of resistance almost as if it were her own, because she was focused upon him. She had known him, remembered him, seen him as he was. And so as she focused upon him in his ailing time, she experienced the release of that resistance. And she still cannot find words to describe the deliciousness of that reemergence into non-physical in one fell swoop, leaving behind all doubt and fear and concern and sickness and sadness and soreness, leaving all of it behind and becoming whole who you are. We cannot find the words to explain to you the exhilaration that death experience is. You'll know it when you croak, and to the degree that you are in alignment, you may know it when you forgive a friend. You may know it when you let loose of an argument. You may know it when you release resistance, release resistance, release resistance. But we've got to tell you that croaking experience is the ultimate releasing of resistance. And then Esther said, Burl, do you know what you have just done? And she could feel the fullness of him. She could feel his laughter. She was translating it through the apparatus that she knew was him, so she could feel the heartiness and the fullness of him. And he said to her, "Oh, Esther, it is so much more than Abraham told me it would be." And then he said, "You know, it's odd. Things that bothered me deeply just seconds ago now are of no concern at all." And Esther said, "Will you talk to me again?" And he said, "I don't know." In other words, he had no earthly care or concern. Esther could feel his eagerness. It was like he had walked through a doorway into an expansive environment that he just could not wait to devour fully. And everything that was before was irrelevant because he was now living real time, you see. So that is what we are wanting to convey to all of you. You don't have to have the death experience to have that exhilarating release of resistance. You can stand in your body in the love that is really you, but this physical environment will tease you from time to time out of your vortex. That's just fine. Step one is a good thing. When you're out of your vortex, just bless the contrast that causes the expansion, and as quickly as you can, turn your attention back to what's in the vortex. We wish for all of you that upon your death experience, as Esther or someone like her who is tuned to the vibrational frequency of non-resistance says to you, "How is it?" that your answer will be, "It's just like every day." Because you can live heaven on earth, you see. It's not where you are, it's your vibrational aptitude.
Thank you.
Take it